What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for a very special video. We have our NFL 2022 draft quarterback rankings. So the NFL draft is in about a month. We are about a month away from the NFL draft. And in this video, I want to give you my top 5 quarterbacks in this NFL draft. Now, I know that the story, really since post last year's draft, and especially throughout the season for teams that were looking like they were going to be picking at the top of the draft, the story was really that there were not many quarterbacks in this draft that are pickable to be in that top 10, to be in that elite, to be at the top of the class, to be picked first overall. And I'm almost certain that none of these quarterbacks will be picked first overall, even second overall. So that is pretty rare in today's day and age when there's so much emphasis put on the quarterback position. But there are certainly some intriguing prospects, as there are every year at the quarterback position, because the quarterback position is the most intriguing position every season for the draft. I don't care what we talk about in terms of the best position, but ultimately the quarterback position is the position that teams that are rebuilding are most likely looking at. Teams that need to take that next step are most likely looking at. And this is the position that leads to the most wins in the NFL, and is the biggest difference between being a good team and a bad team. So obviously every season there's a lot of intrigue with the quarterback position. This year, just on the surface, certainly after watching this class and comparing it to the last couple of years, in my opinion, is certainly not on the level of last season's class. Nowhere close, really, in my opinion. I thought last year had a very strong class of about 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were pretty good and pretty interesting, and all were a little bit different in their own way. We've seen some really elite quarterbacks come out, and I would say this season, there's a few guys that I like. I would say that I don't love any of these quarterbacks the way that I loved, let's say, Mac Jones last year, where I was like, I love Mac Jones. Like, I'll just stomping the table, banging the table down for Mac Jones. That was really my guy last year, but I do sense that there are some quarterbacks that will be starters in this league, can make a difference in this league, and are potentially even franchise quarterbacks. And I will let you know how far that extends within this top 5, because I would say there's a couple guys that do make my top 5 that I'm not confident will ever be a good starter. But they could be good backups, and they're at least developmental prospects. There's about 3 quarterbacks that I think will be starters in this league, and that I think could have pretty high upside and could be starters for a while. And there's varying degrees of what they could be in this league. This class is specifically difficult, in my opinion, to evaluate, because I felt like there were a lot of quarterbacks in this class that you don't see a lot of NFL transferable things from. And that is really difficult to sift and make your way through their catalog of film. And really what I base this off is the film. Like, you guys know, if you've followed me, I do not give a single anything about stats. I don't look at their stats whatsoever. So if you want to give me their stats, I'll save you it now. I do not care what their stats were. Okay, so don't bring up their stats. I do not care. I just watch their games. I'm also not a huge college football guy, so I really don't have any previous bias on their history throughout their college career. I watch their latest season of tape. I go through all the plays I can. I go through it again if I can. And then basically I evaluate the things that I believe are transferable to the NFL, the traits that I feel are the most important for the NFL, which there's a lot, I think, on the field. First, what stands out, and we'll go through it with each and every guy. What are their biggest and best traits, right? What do they do very well? Do they have a great arm? Is it their arm strength? Are they very accurate? Do they process the field very well? What's their vision and their quick ability to get rid of the football? Are their feet really good? Can they move? Can they run? Can they extend plays? Can they throw from different platforms in different angles? Can they just run, straight up run? Can they be a designed running quarterback in the league? What's their pocket presence like? I would say that I pretty much put it on like a tier. There's tier by tier. I would say that for me, most importantly, is what's in between their ears and how well, and this is different from, I would say, accuracy, but I tend to say that accuracy is because of their mechanics. And if you have strong mechanics, which I would not claim to be an expert on quarterback passing mechanics, but from what I know about the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, which I think I know something about those guys, especially Tom Brady, I can judge whether or not they have consistent mechanics and then go from there, because if you have consistent mechanics, you're always going to be able to make the throw and the pass that you want to make. It's not always about getting the completion. You also, when you have to watch the film, have to be able to judge what's realistic and what's unrealistic for an athlete to be able to perform or do. Should that receiver have caught the ball? Was there no potential ability to get the ball to any receiver? Was there too much pressure? Could he have escaped the pressure? Could he have made a better read? So all those things go into definitely the tape analysis, but I tried to combine everything. But at the top of the list is certainly the ability to pass from the pocket. To me, is still the most important thing in the NFL. And everything on top of that just adds the gravy on top of the meat and the potatoes. Okay, so that is my rundown for what I'm looking for, so you guys understand off the top. I've had a lot of success evaluating quarterbacks in the past draft classes, and I make sure that I go through with detail and understand each and every guy, and I want to continue to be able to have that success. So before we get started here, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. Don't forget to spike that like button and the notification bell for the latest upload. As I go live here on the channel, you will be notified every single time if you spike the notification bell. Also, give me that like. It helps the algorithm. If you're watching this after the fact, don't forget to comment in the comment section below who you believe is the best quarterback in this class. And also, if you want to leave your top 5 or any sort of analysis, let me know in the comment section below. Appreciate everybody here in the live chat. We've got Jake Hedge in the chat. Manuel, who says, do you think any of these rookie quarterbacks can take a team to a winning record? I will say this. It heavily depends on their situation. I would say that there's one or maybe two guys that I would look at and say if they went to a good situation day one, they'd be able to have success. So yes, I would probably say yes. Nicholas Gill's in the chat. What's up to him? Lance is in the chat. He says that he hopes Carolina takes Pickett or Willis at number 6. And it parks an urgency with Atlanta and Seattle, so it bumps more players down. I am doing well, Jake. Thanks for asking. Mr. Peter, what's up? Caleb says his first live stream I'm getting to watch. I found your channel a few days ago and have watched a lot of recent videos and really enjoy your content. Thank you so much, Caleb. Appreciate you being here, man. Almighty Trey Brown, what's going on, man? And yes, I'm going to be ranking it right now. So let's kick it off. Again, this is my top 5, and I will be releasing the individual clips from this video as well throughout the week. But let's begin with my number 5 quarterback. And my number 5 quarterback is Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati. The first thing I will say about Desmond Ridder, I've seen a lot of people begin to rise on him. And around this time, which I'm currently doing this breakdown on April 5th, there is starting to become some buzz surrounding Desmond Ridder And I'm not exactly sure why based on my assessment of the player. I do think that there are 4 quarterbacks in the draft that are better than Ridder, and I deserve to go ahead of Ridder. But let me know if you disagree with me in the comments, and let me know if you do like him. Just let me know why you like him and give a nice little breakdown to why you like him. But I've specifically seen a lot of the Pro Football Focus community backing him as maybe even the best quarterback in the draft, which I'm not quite sure about. So let's get into the notes and the breakdown. So in terms of the strengths, the thing that really just started to pop off for me with Desmond Ridder right when I started watching him was his size. To me, he is the most quarterback-looking, NFL quarterback-looking guy in this class. When I just put on the tape, Desmond Ridder stands out because he's a big guy. He's got good size. He's about 6'4". He is, I guess, a little bit slimmer for his frame, which is he's only 215 according to the stats, but he does look like a pretty big guy. He's also, on top of being pretty big, he's also got some nice speed. When he has a chance to run, he combines that size and that 6'4" frame with breakaway speed, and he's one of the fastest quarterbacks in this class. What I do think people and teams will like about him, scouts, is his experience. He's played a lot of games. Now, that doesn't necessarily wow me because I'm just looking at the guy for what he is, but it definitely helps him become a more mature quarterback, leader, and player, and hopefully that leads to better performance. But obviously, he's my number 5 here. Now, his processing is pretty strong in terms of hanging in the pocket, going through his reads when he needs to, and being able to pick out the right target. But my problem is a majority of what happens after that. Okay, now he does have leadership. He's won a lot of games in college. Those things are nice and pretty and whatever. They don't matter as much to me as they do maybe to the next person. But overall, I like that he wants to win from the pocket despite him being athletic enough to move and to run. And a lot of guys in this class specifically they'll look at their first read, and then if it's not there, they'll run. This was also a problem that I had a lot with like Justin Fields last year that I thought was going to be tough for him to transfer to the NFL. But I think with Ridder, I do appreciate that he tries to become a pocket quarterback, and then if nothing's there, then he'll run, or if it's a design run, then obviously he'll run because he has that speed. He's not a runner where it's like he's going to deke and dodge everybody or like make somebody miss. He's more so he's just going to run by you. And obviously he's tough to take down just because of his pure size. But like I said, the problems with him are more so what happens after he's about to throw the ball. He's very inconsistent just with his accuracy and his ball placement just in general. Like across the board, it immediately made me look at him as nowhere near a first-round prospect because he has so many flaws with his overall, just the way he throws the football for me. A lot of times his legs and his upper half do not line up. He does not throw a consistent, mechanically sound football, which I do believe leads to some very bad inaccuracies throughout the course of a game. When he's ever under some sort of pressure and he has to reset in the pocket, you specifically see his feet become a problem with him. He tries to kind of stay in the same stance and tries to like plant himself into this stance to be able to throw. And it's really difficult to be able to do that at the NFL level because at the NFL level, you're living in a muddied pocket. You're living in a pocket that's going to be, you're going to get rushed from the middle. You're going to get rushed from the right, the left. And you're going to have to be able to adjust your feet, move accordingly within the pocket, and keep strong mechanics. And to me, Desmond Ridder doesn't do that at all, and he doesn't do that well. So he's going to have to rework that completely. So what I see with him is a quarterback with he has a raw skill set where I don't really think his arm is much of a problem. I heard a couple people say like his arm isn't super strong. I never really got the sense of that. I don't think his arm is a super big issue. I think he has an NFL arm. It's more so the inaccuracies of him just missing guys constantly in the short intermediate game, especially even on the money layup throws, which you've got to be able to make in the NFL. So he's got the raw skill set of having the size and having the speed and the athleticism, and he's got a pedigree, but I don't like the way he throws the football. His placement is way too inconsistent, and a big thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking nowadays is just that ability to get the ball consistently to your guy in this day and age in the NFL. That's why I thought a lot of people slept on Mac Jones last year. It's because the guy was extremely accurate to the point where his mechanics were sound every time he threw the ball. And Desmond just doesn't have that feel to me. Now, he can extend plays a bit because of his speed and his ability to get outside, but I never feel like he's confident really throwing the ball on the move or making plays on the move because of his mechanics overall, and it just feels like he doesn't really know where the ball's going half the time. I will say with his speed, it's more so of a build-up speed. His acceleration does take a little bit of time to get there, but once he does, he can break away in the open field and really make you pay if you give him space. He's also a long strider, obviously. He's not a guy that's gonna look like he's going very fast, but he definitely is. In terms of his pressure awareness, it's, I would say, a little bit below average. I wouldn't say it's great or bad or anything like that. What else do I got in my notes here? Overall though, and the other thing I've noticed is just when he throws the ball, he kind of almost like, he throws it a little bit like Carson Wentz, sort of, where it's kind of like off the elbow. Like his elbow is sort of like the start of his rhythm and his throwing motion, which is definitely not something that you want to have at the NFL level. So there's just a lot of inconsistencies. Like, yes, he's in a pro-style concepts offense, which is something that stands out on film because a lot of these guys aren't. And yes, he's big, and yes, he's fast, but I just don't see any consistencies that are going to lend to the NFL game. He's going to have to completely work his feet in the pocket. He's going to have to be able to get comfortable resetting and throwing from different platforms and under pressure. And I just think that's a lot to ask for a guy that's already played a bunch of games that is transferring his game to the NFL level. So clearly, as you can tell, I'm nowhere near as close to like Desmond Ridder in comparison to like my number 5 quarterback last year, Trey Lance. It's not even in the same stratosphere in terms of the ability or in terms of what I see the potential being. So he's certainly to me like a mid-round draft pick just because the inconsistencies as a passer, that is the most biggest thing that you've got to nail for me. And those things are certainly not there overall. So he is my number 5 quarterback, Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think I got right and I got wrong. And if you want to add anything in any context to what I'm discussing, be sure to question what I'm saying. But that's certainly how I view him, is definitely a mid-round, sort of a project type of guy, in my opinion. And certainly a good athlete, but not a great quarterback at this moment. Okay, so that's Desmond Ridder, my number 5 quarterback. Carson Strong is not on my list. I'll just quickly to discuss Carson Strong. I watched a couple games from him, and immediately what I saw was a guy that had a strong arm and couldn't do anything else. That's just my opinion. Had a strong arm, could not move a lick. I mean, he could not move at all. Somebody actually tweeted me to watch Carson Strong. I just didn't see it. He couldn't move at all. Like from pressure, he couldn't do any, and his accuracy was okay, but it wasn't anything that stood out. It was inconsistent. I just think in the NFL, you got a strong arm, but you've got to be able to move and reset your platform and be able to throw and have pocket presence. And to me, Carson Strong doesn't have that. So yeah, he's going to get drafted because of the arm, but I don't see much else there for you there, Nicholas. That's just my opinion. Okay. So the number 4 quarterback on my list, as I'm trying to find my notes here. Okay, there we go. My number 4 quarterback of the 2022 NFL Draft is Sam Howell of North Carolina. Now, unlike Ritter, he does not stand out for his size at about 6 foot 220. He almost looks, and I know that this has commonly been said, but it is true, he looks a lot like Baker Mayfield, almost like Baker Mayfield's brother or his cousin, or at least related to Baker Mayfield in some sort of way. But Sam Howell was a quarterback that in his first season was starting to gain a lot of steam, a lot of momentum as a guy that could potentially even be the first pick in a weak quarterback class this year. But in his second year, without the same weaponry and without the same things around him, his deficiencies showed up and he has certainly slid in the NFL draft. But I will say with Sam Howell, who is my number 4, I like him a lot more than my number 5. A lot more than my number 5, I would say. Now let's take a look at the strengths and the weaknesses of Sam Howell. In terms of the strengths, I've got touch throws. I think he does a good job with his touch throws at the intermediate or even deep down the field, which I have combined here into his deep ball. I think he throws one of the best deep balls in the class. And obviously, he was asked to throw the deep ball a lot more than a lot of other quarterbacks in this class. I saw consistent. It was almost a rhythm within the offense where it was screen or deep ball. And that is definitely not a very complex offense to operate, but that certainly shows that he has the ability to make the downfield sideline type throws. And he usually puts the necessary touch on those throws. All over the field, he does a pretty good job. I really respect how he plays. He is kind of a fearless guy within the pocket, almost to a fault, which we'll discuss in his weaknesses. But he has this gritty sort of gamer quality to him where he tries to make a play, man, and he goes out there and sometimes he makes incredible throws and incredible plays or breaks a tackle, breaks 2 tackles, tries to make a run and get that necessary yards or get that touchdown or make that play. So he's very fun to watch, and I do think some of that heart will transfer to the NFL, but that's also where I do see the comparisons to somebody like Baker Mayfield, who plays a lot like that heart on his sleeve type of mentality. I also respect how he hangs in the pocket and will take a shot to make a throw, which is important to me in any date and age in the NFL. He does have really good contact balance, which, continuing to go along the themes of Baker Mayfield, I will say that something that I think separates Howell is I think his contact balance is definitely much better than Baker. You know, Baker was actually kind of hyped up as a good runner and stuff like that, but I never really thought that would transfer to the NFL just because he was so small and he didn't really truly have great speed to escape the pocket. But with Howell, he's actually surprisingly a good runner. I don't think that's necessarily going to transfer to the NFL. Do I think he can scramble a bit? Probably. But the thing that I do think transfers is his ability to break sacks and his ability to break tackles occasionally, because he's got a very strong lower half and he's got a big butt and a big set of legs, which I also have as an athlete, so I understand how that helps you. And definitely Howell is somebody that can escape tackles and can break tackles, and that will help him in the pocket as a smaller quarterback in terms of the height, right? So that's definitely going to help. Now, in terms of my notes, going back to his ability to throw, He makes a lot of high difficulty throws in tight windows, which I do believe reflects in his statistics as well. I don't know this for a fact. As I said, I don't look at stats. I don't care, but I'm pretty sure that will show up is he makes a lot of high difficulty throws, rather down the field or over the middle of the field with some pace on them. But my problem is that it's very, very inconsistent. Something that I noticed at the combine even is when he tries to put pace on the ball and tries to put power on the ball, he can lose accuracy with his football at the intermediate level, especially where because of the way he throws the football, which is very Gardner Minshew-like in my opinion. Like, this is somebody that I think he can be in the NFL, is Gardner Minshew, who is kind of gritty, and he makes a lot of plays. He's a gamer. He runs around. He's got the over top delivery, which is good for the deep ball, and good for that touch. But he almost has that over the top, it's hard to get a lot of power when you're throwing it like this. So that's kind of what I see. It reminds me a little bit of Gardner Minshew in that way. But I like his game quite a bit. I just don't know how he's going to be able to transfer as a starter in the NFL. He does hold on to the ball sometimes a little bit too much, which is what I said, it's a strength and a weakness. Sometimes he holds on to it too much, which in the NFL, he's going to get sacked because he's not going to be able to escape the sacks like he did in college. But he does have great confidence, great bravado, great leadership. I think he sees the field pretty well overall. But yeah, I think he's a pretty talented passer that if he can find a way to just refine his mechanics a little bit, he can become a much more consistent power thrower. And I think that he could be like a high-end backup in this league with some really good traits to, help a team out, sort of like Gardner Minshew. So that's kind of what I look in terms of a comp that way. So that is Sam Howell from UNC. Unfortunately, UNC lost the championship game there for basketball. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this breakdown so far. Don't forget to give me a like on the video. Nicholas Gill, quickly go over his stuff. Ultra says pretty accurate traits with Howell. That's good to hear. Nick says, I have Sam Howell number 3. His toughness stands out. Good runner. Good deep ball. Did a lot with a poor offensive line. Accuracy is inconsistent. Forces it into traffic. Overthrows. I have a round 1 grade. Okay. I would not put him in round 1. I would probably put him late second, early third. Nicholas Gill says, I think he has starter potential day 1. Could develop into a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback if he improves his accuracy and presence. I have his comp as Baker Mayfield plus rushing. Yeah, I will say this about him. I think Baker certainly had a better arm. And Baker was just much more successful at the college level. But I mean, I could see it. I wouldn't be shocked if he was a good quarterback in the NFL. But I think he kind of lends more towards good backup sort of. Might get a chance to be a starter type of guy more so than Pro Bowl quarterback. I don't think I see that from him with consistency. Maybe he could pull that off 1 year or 2 years, but I don't know if he could do that consistently. All right, so my number 3 quarterback, which is the first quarterback I watched. Let's get to him. And I have a lot of notes on him. Okay, so my third quarterback in the 2022 NFL Draft is Malik Willis of Liberty, 6'1", 225, and he is commonly being graded as the best quarterback in this draft class. Now, I usually hit you guys with a few hot takes every now and again when it comes to my quarterback rankings, but Malik Willis is not my top quarterback, but I certainly see some transferable traits to the NFL that could make him very dangerous and some things that I do think will make him very intriguing for NFL teams in the first round. But there are far too many questions and inconsistencies with his game that I don't think lend him to being my top or number 2 quarterback in this class. But I certainly think that he is somebody that I like to watch, and I did an extensive breakdown to figure out whether, I was wrong about him. So Malik Willis from Liberty is my number 3. Now let's take a look at his strengths and his weaknesses. And my strengths for him, first thing that stands out, he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker as a passer and a runner. He certainly can extend plays and make a difference that way. He can make throws on the run, although I don't think he's like a guy that I've seen in the past where I wouldn't compare him to like a Mahomes or a Herbert or a Zach Wilson even, those guys that were just dynamic out of the pocket throwing the ball. I think Willis does more damage with his legs, and he can see the field enough to make the throws on the run as well, and he does have a strong enough arm to make the throws on the run, but he's not like otherworldly to be able to make those plays. He is extremely powerful. He is a very strong athlete in terms of his legs and his arm. He can throw the ball with a lot of power. He can run. He can break tackles. He's very elusive. I love his like little jab step, his ability to kind of like make a guy go one way and go the other way, plant his foot in the ground and go. That lends to power and explosiveness, which is evident in his arm, his legs, evident in just his whole body. He's just a powerful beast of a quarterback. He definitely has some deep ball touch. That is nice. I like it. It's there. It's noticeable. And I do think he has a much more refined release than I was expecting to see. I think his mechanics and stuff like that are much more there and evident even than somebody like Trey Lance or Justin Fields last year, where I thought Justin Fields and Trey Lance, they had a lot more questions with their mechanics than people were discussing. Malik Willis actually has a pretty tight release, and his ability to throw the ball consistently is there as well. But there are some massive weaknesses with how I see his game. His reads, I mean, I just don't see much from the tape that suggests that he's ready to play in the NFL. He doesn't make a lot of reads in the offense. A lot of it is RPO stuff. A lot of it is like one read stuff. He even struggles to make reads when he's asked to. A lot of the times he doesn't want to throw something that is open. And I'm like, bro, just throw the ball there. Like, why aren't you throwing the ball to the guy that's wide open? Instead, he takes off and he runs, which is definitely a cause for concern because that's not going to be able to happen in the NFL. On top of that, his anticipation is definitely lacking. So his anticipation to throw the football to a guy that is about to get open is certainly lacking as well. So the main traits, again, guys, this is how I see the quarterback position. The main traits of the quarterback position I do not currently see with Malik Willis, which gives me a lot of cause for concern. He has all of the physical tools of the arm strength, the mobility, the movement skills, even the playmaking ability is all there. But as a system player and as an ability to just consistently go through reads, make the right throw, make the quick decision, and be able to see things before they happen, anticipate throws before they happen, that is 90% of quarterback play in the NFL. And these are things that I do not see currently with Malik Willis's game. He is an electric player, so I don't want to come across like I'm hating him. He's an electric player with a lot of upside, but a lot of these things are going to have to be coached into him, which is concerning for me. He looks like a man among boys out there a lot of the times in terms of him playing lesser competition, which also concerned me. So I had to try and turn on tape that was against good competition. Now, I will say he does have a little bit of an over-the-top release, but it doesn't concern me the way that Howell's release concerns me. It's definitely more refined and more consistent. He does tend to hold on to the ball versus the blitz and try to do it with his legs instead of his arm. He doesn't really tend to hang in the pocket and make a quick read and throw like the best quarterbacks do. A lot of the times he tries to scramble away from pressure and run away from pressure and use his legs. He does seem like a good character and a good guy and a great spirit. You know, just looking at his pro day, he was always smiling. You know, he had a presence about him. I like that about him. What else? As a runner, I think he's really different from a lot of the guys that we've seen recently. I don't think he's actually that fast. Like, I don't think he's somebody that is going to be like Lamar Jackson where he can turn the corner on a defense and he's just gone. Like, I actually think he's more comparable to somebody like Jalen Hurts, where he's really good at setting up blockers. He's really good at making people miss. He can break tackles with his lower body because he's so strong. And it's going to be really, like, he's going to fight for like 10 yards. He's going to make a guy miss. He's going to break a tackle. But a lot of times at college, guys are not as good at tacklers. Guys are not as fast. Guys are not as good of athletes and defenders, right? And they're not as good at just bodying somebody up and taking them down. And that's something that I don't know how that's going to really work in the NFL. Like, I definitely think he's going to be able to have some run packages and be able to make some plays running the ball, especially in short yardage and in the red zone. But I don't think he's going to be somebody that's breaking like a 40-yard run or like breaking a 40-yard scramble like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray do. I don't think he has that type of speed. But he certainly is very elusive and very powerful and tough to take down. His contact balance is very, very good. He tries to be Superman too much. I wrote this down. Like, he tries to kind of every play is the last play of the game, Deshaun Watson type of way, which will probably lend him. And I believe I heard something from PFF on one of their podcasts where he had the most big time plays, but he also had the most sacks. And he also had, so it lends to the way he plays. Definitely when I watch him play is like, he definitely holds on the ball, but he definitely can make the big plays when it pays off for him. I do think that he could fit in pretty well with like play action boot game, like those McVay type offenses, something that the Vikings have been running in recent years with Kirk Cousins, where it's a lot of play action and you can set up the run game as well. He did have a lot of RPOs in his offense, which also made it difficult for me to really truly assess when he was going through reads. It wasn't really there. There were even games where you didn't see him go through NFL type reads. He can be pressed and forced into some stupid throws that I thought just didn't make a lot of sense. And I did just sense his maturity as a passer and his spatial awareness, understanding of zone coverages and when a guy's open, when a guy's not open, trusting who's open, trusting who's not open. Those things were all so far away from being NFL ready that I had to put him at number 3. So personally, I see a lot of good with Malik Willis, where he's somebody that can be a playmaker. He's somebody that can be a great runner. He's somebody that has a powerful arm and decent enough mechanics to work with, but you've got to be able to spend the time of working on his quarterback traits that are really truly essential to good quarterback play. Not even great quarterback play, good quarterback play in this league, which I think a lot of people are just not really talking about. So that's why I have him at number 3. He is very raw, and he's a very big projection. But if he gets a good coach and a good system, he can be a good player and definitely a starter and potentially even a Pro Bowler in this league. So we'll see what happens with Malik Willis. Let me know what you think in the comments and let me know where you grade him in this draft class. Okay, so that is Malik Willis. What do we got in the chat? Saints will draft Kenny Pickett, says JWS. He says Pickett is number 1 and Howell is number 2. Okay. You'd draft Malik Willis in round 1. I do think he's definitely going to go in the first round. And I think I would draft him in the first round. I don't think I'd pick him in the top 10. I think if I had a later pick, I'd pick him in the first round. Nicholas says you'd prefer to have him sit a year. I would agree with that. He needs development and good coaching to become a good starter. Your comp is Johnny Manziel. I don't get that one. I'm gonna say that much. I don't understand that. He says he's a powerful runner, elusive, elite arm, good deep accuracy, good throw on the run, makes big time throws, solid decision making. I think he struggles with pocket awareness. I would agree with that. Holds on the ball way too long. A little of inaccuracy. At times. Does not throw with anticipation. Does not throw over the middle. That is true. And he doesn't throw over the middle of the field because he doesn't anticipate that well. And throwing in the intermediate middle of the field is essential to being a good quarterback in the NFL. It's like the biggest thing that the great quarterbacks are great at. You've got to be able to throw over the middle of the field and in the intermediate level of the field. at a high level. Okay, so my number 2 quarterback, and I'll say this much, guys. I had him at number 1 for a good portion of my time here. And then there was just some things holding me back from making him number 1. And I was flipping back and forth between these two. And I still kind of am a little bit. But there are just things holding me back from putting him at number 1. So my top 2 for me are very clear. So I will say that much. My top 2 are evident, clear, and obvious. And my number 3 is evident, clear, and obvious. My number 4 is pretty obvious. And then my number 5 is pretty obvious. So that's kind of the way that my rankings are going. But, man, I had him at number 1 because he does have some really good traits that I really like. But I also see some things that I do worry about at the next level. So, without further ado, my number 2 is Matt Corral of Ole Miss. So Matt Corral is my number 2 quarterback in the 2022 NFL Draft. And I really like Matt Corral. I think he could be the best quarterback in this class without a doubt. I think in terms of transferable NFL traits, he has the most elite transferable NFL traits in the class. And I think he fits the modern game very well, especially in play-action heavy offenses, because he's got very good feet, he's got a very good arm, and he's a really good athlete, and he's got a quick release. I mean, his release is phenomenal. So he's got 3 or 4 traits that are really, really good. And in a lot of ways, he does remind me a little bit of Zach Wilson from last year. And you guys know that I loved Zach Wilson last year. So Matt Corral is very enticing, and he's certainly a first-round pick this season for me in this year's draft. He's certainly a first-round pick. And he still might end up being my number 1 quarterback in this class, but he just doesn't offer some of the things that I really desire in a first-round prospect, in a locked and loaded good quarterback. So let's take a look at Matt Corral next up on my strengths and weaknesses. Now, first thing that stands out is his release. His release is rapid. He can throw the football instantly when he sees his target and he gets his platform ready to throw. Bam, it's out. So his release is super impressive, and that is something that is definitely transferable to the NFL. He often operates in these RPO quick game, which his release was perfect for because he would read it, he would throw it instantly. His arm strength, I think he has the best arm in the class, in my opinion. The ability to make all the throws, and he has very good feet, very quick feet to elude defenders, to be able to extend plays. As a runner, he is dynamic. In my opinion, his ability as a runner is second to only Malik Willis. Malik Willis has more power and more ability to break tackles. Corral more so uses his stop and start quickness to be able to run and to see lanes and go, and I think he is a very good runner in that regard. I am not sure, though, how his running will transfer to the NFL, as he is a little bit smaller. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to take constant contact. So he's somebody that I think is going to be nice to utilize as a runner in certain situations, but I wouldn't rely on him a ton to run the football. Not like they did in college, which I was almost frustrated with the amount that Ole Miss used him running the football, because I wanted to see more of him passing. Because I think he'll become more of a passer in the NFL, as opposed to Malik Willis, where I could see Malik being like Jalen Hurts, where he's taking 15 carries a game. Now, his play action is the best in the class. He's very good off play action, and the numbers indicate that as well. And what I most notice is he's very good at basically centering himself and positioning himself to the target, and when he sees his target, he can go and he can throw it, and he can quickly adjust himself, his feet, and his top half to throw the football. His recognition off of the RPO game is also very strong, so he can read 2 things at the same time, and and definitely see what's happening, read the safeties, the linebackers, whatever, and then be able to quickly diagnose the play and go. His weaknesses, definitely, he's a little bit slim for my liking, especially for somebody that has such a good skill set to run the ball. He needs to slide. Like, he's going to get himself hurt. I could certainly see him having some injury issues because he's just fearless and he refuses to slide. And we didn't see a ton of pro quality throws in college because he was in that RPO, very heavy RPO offense, but he makes more than Malik Willis does, certainly. He also has inconsistent decision making where there were games where he threw a lot of interceptions. I'm not really going to put that on him a ton. Some of it's luck, some of it's not, but I do feel like there are moments where he's making a great play, he's outside the pocket, it looks like he's going to make a great play, and then he just makes a stupid throw, and I'm like, whoa. And that at times it is not good, obviously, but there's other times where he just makes plays in on his tape where other guys in the class can't make those plays. He, to me, makes the most like eye-popping throws in terms of in the pocket. He makes a lot of throws where he's looking to the right and then he pops himself back into position perfectly, and then it's a laser on like a deep post, like a 20-yard post, and it's bam, right on the money. And you're like, that's very transferable to the NFL. So there are a lot of traits that I really, really like here, obviously. So for such a compact motion, he has a lot of arm strength out of that motion. I don't think the motion is a big problem whatsoever. It would be nice if he kind of loosened it up a little bit because I think his arm would actually be even better in that case. But he almost throws the ball like from his ear like this. Like if you're punching somebody, he almost like protects himself. You know how you protect yourself with the punch? He's like throwing from his ear like that. And it's kind of, it's weird. But it's almost Aaron Rodgers like a little bit, like early Aaron Rodgers sort of. He's got, I think though, even though he throws it that way, it is accurate a lot of the time, and it is smooth, and it is consistent. So as long as it's consistent and it's accurate, I don't really care how you throw it. I mean, just look at Phillip Rivers, for example, who throws it totally different than Matt Corral, but it was consistent and accurate, so I don't really care. Quickness and pace out of his hand definitely is there. He's great with his playmaking with his hands because of the RPO game and his play action game that also helps with that. What else do I got here? I did notice a little bit of ball security issues when he was under pressure, fumbles occasionally that I didn't like so much. He has really quick feet in the pocket and good acceleration when he does decide to scramble. He can really burst through the hole and go. Like if he sees a lane open, he is going to beat you with big yards. Like in the NFL, that's certainly something that will transfer. He's pretty fast, and if he sees a lane in the pocket or just a split, he'll be able to take off, and I think he'll gain 15 to 20 or even a big gain. And he's got a really nice just jab step move when he sees somebody, he can just get by him. He also, with those quick feet, can make a guy miss under pressure occasionally, more than occasionally. He almost always makes the first guy miss. It's more so that he doesn't see the other guys around him, and he definitely needs to work on that. Something that I did notice negatively about his pocket presence, sometimes he looks down too much. Sometimes he looks at the rush sometimes when he's under pressure, and it will be tough for him to elude guys. But if he sees him, he'll get by the first guy. He does confidently find checkdowns, I think, more commonly and consistently than somebody like Malik Willis, who I think needs to work on his field vision and his reads. I think overall what I saw from Corral was he does a better job of like, okay, that's not there, I'm just going to check it down, like just more mature quarterback stuff, in my opinion. What else? I think, what else? Reliable, consistent passer. He's pretty tough. He's competitive for sure. And that's almost to a fault where he's gotten himself hurt. He shows his heart and his feistiness when he's running the ball. And yeah, I like a lot of the things. Like I have mostly positives to say about him. And I definitely take him in the top half of the first round because I think he has a lot of elite traits that you can definitely definitely develop, and he can definitely be a very good quarterback in this league. So you guys can tell I like Matt Corral quite a bit, but there are certainly concerns that held him back from being my top guy, and it's mostly to do with the style of offense he was in and the transferable nature of that offense and what he did in that offense to relate to the NFL. So a lot of the like raw passing ability is the best in the class, but the quarterback stuff is what holds him back from being first, if that makes sense. So let me know what you guys think of Matt Corral in the comment section. Do you like him? Do you not like him? Let me know in the comments. And do you think I nailed it with him, or do you think I'm a little bit off? So I think he probably has the most likely upside of all of these guys. Nicholas is totally different on him, which is interesting. He says that he is his 5th best quarterback in the class, which is very interesting. So we strongly disagree. He says good pocket poise, processes well, a good decision making, good runner. I don't think his arm is strong. I disagree with that. Doesn't throw the ball downfield well. I did notice some misses down the field. I would agree with that. I don't know if it was concerning, but he did miss some. He is small in a lot of RPOs, so yeah. Nicholas says, I think Corral should be a late first. I don't know how you have 5 guys going in the first round, though. I don't see 5 guys going in the first round. He says he's like Trubisky or Tua, or a combination of them. Not high upside. Interesting. Okay, I disagree quite a bit with that assessment, but hey. Jeremy says he's Baker. Okay. So that's my number 2, which you guys could probably guess who my number 1 is, which was tough because, like I said, my number 2 and number 1 are very close, and I could even flip any day now, but I think I'm pretty good with my number 1 right now just because he stands out to me in terms of his maturity of quarterback play in this class. Okay. So my number 1 quarterback of the 2022 NFL draft class is Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett is my top guy. And I will say this, I was not expecting to make Kenny Pickett my top guy. I, going into this, was probably thinking he was going to be 3rd-ish. You know, and the way that a lot of people are talking about him, obviously the hands thing, which we'll discuss, is commonly coming up with Kenny Pickett. Then we've got, you know, him being more of the system quarterback that I think a lot of people are describing him as opposed to Malik Willis or Matt Corral or somebody like that. And I think a lot of people are seeing that he doesn't have super great traits, and a lot of people are willing to take the guys with more eye-popping highlights than, you know, Kenny Pickett, who's NFL ready. So let's get to our strengths and our weaknesses for Kenny Pickett, who is my, at least for now, top quarterback in the 2022 NFL draft. So Kenny Pickett. What impressed me about Kenny Pickett? He is the smartest quarterback in the draft class. And last season, I was all about Mac Jones, and I should have, looking back on it, and I will say this now, I really wanted to rank Mac Jones first, but I didn't. So this year, I am reconstructing myself, and I'm putting Kenny Pickett first. Kenny Pickett is the smartest quarterback in the class. His processing is the fastest. He reads the game the fastest. He makes his decisions the fastest. And to me, that's what's most important at the quarterback position. Does he have the strongest arm? No. But does he have a good arm? Yes. He has an NFL arm. He doesn't have a Brett Favre arm, but he has a good arm. His accuracy is pretty consistent. He's definitely accurate at all levels of the field, especially short and intermediate, which I think is going to lend well to the NFL. He also has a great deep ball. He has very good touch on his deep ball for sure, without a doubt. And when it's there, he will uncork it and he'll make the throw. His pocket presence is by far the best in the class. He actually understands how to manipulate the pocket, how to move in the pocket, left, right, center, whatever. And a lot of these quarterbacks are very, very flawed when it comes to their pocket ability. He's a strong decision maker. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but he's also a little bit conservative. So you can take decision making. What I'm more so looking for is like, is he making the right throw in the right situation? Is he throwing to the right guy? Is he throwing it away when he needs to? He's the most developed in terms of understanding how to play the position and where to go with the ball at what time. He's also a very deceptive athlete. Very deceptive. He is a way better athlete than I thought everybody was giving him credit for when I watched him. Everybody was saying he was kind of an average athlete. I strongly disagree with that. His vision is good. Would I say it's Mac Jones or Joe Burrow? No, but he's a pretty good just being able to see the field and go to the right guy and finding him. Now, his weaknesses. His release isn't bad, like, don't get me wrong, but it's not as good, I would say, as definitely Corral. Corral's is phenomenal. And Willis, I think, also has a better release than Pickett, but Pickett's is solid. Conservative decisions, as I said. Sometimes he's a little bit too quick to throw the ball underneath or to get rid of the ball when maybe he could go to a guy that's a little bit deeper down the field or make a more challenging throw. Sometimes he drifts outside the pocket when facing pressure and the blitz and will try to make a play outside the pocket. Maybe when he doesn't have to. I'd prefer that he just uses his accuracy and his throwing ability to just stand in the pocket and make a throw instead of trying to run around and make plays. His hand size, which, yes, it's not a joke. He legitimately has small hands, and that does concern me. And his arm angles. He does not have a lot of different deliveries, which is something that is a big key thing in the NFL today, which I don't think matters as much as people think, but it is a thing. Like Matthew Stafford ability to throw the ball an inch off the ground, sidearm on a screen. Like, yeah, that's cool, and it does help, but it's not essential. I mean, Tom Brady doesn't really throw the ball like from halfway off the ground, sidearm, and he's the best quarterback of all time. Peyton Manning didn't throw the ball like underhand, so it doesn't really matter. But it does matter too. It's nice to have. It's nice to be able to throw the ball like Mahomes like this and throw the ball 20 yards, but Kenny Pickett doesn't really do that and part of it is because of his gloves and his hands. So when you have massive hands and you can just grab the ball, you can basically rip it around, right? You could grab the ball like LeBron James just grabs a basketball. You can grab the football and you could just rip it, right? You could throw it from any angle and every platform because it doesn't matter. But when your hands are smaller, you have to throw it with your proper mechanics and you can't throw it all over the place because you can't grip the ball the same way. And the other thing that hand size does matter is in the cold weather. When the ball is slicker, obviously, gloves are not as good in that weather as well, so it's going to be difficult for him to play in New England 8 games a year. But also he played in Pittsburgh too. So this is why it's not a big concern, because he legitimately played a lot of games in Pittsburgh in cold weather, in inclement weather, and he played well. So I don't think those things are massively concerning. Just don't expect him to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady when the snow is there, right? So, and here's the thing. That would be a bigger deal if I was judging, if his quarterback class was Mahomes, Herbert, all these guys, okay. I'd move Kenny Pickett down a couple notches. But I'm judging him based on the other players in his class. And that doesn't take away from him being the best, most mature pocket passer and thrower and passer and consistent ability to make quarterback NFL plays. And those things matter to me more. So let's break down more of the notes I got here. And again, guys, I was not expecting to have Kenny Pickett first. I really wasn't. So he's 6'3", 220. Good size, good height. They call him Kenny Two Gloves for a reason. He is the most nuanced quarterback in the class by a mile. It's not even close. He has a lot of experience. He looks taller than 6'3". He looks like he's like 6'5". He stands very high, very tall in the pocket, which I like. He looks very confident. Even the way he was working his pro day, which I don't really care much about what happened in the pro day, but just the way he situates himself when he's throwing, it's very confident. It's very like, I like it. He has a good arm, like I said, not a great elite arm, but it's a good NFL arm. He can make all the throws. I wish he had a slightly stronger arm to make some tight window throws, but it's not a huge deal. He is really accurate at the intermediate level, and I do feel out of all of these quarterbacks, he's the most mature at throwing at that level of the field and understanding concepts of when to go to that, when to pick on certain things. He throws a very catchable ball. It's very easy, like for even like little touch passes to running backs on wheels and stuff like that. Deep balls, very good. Quick-minded, goes through his progressions really well. He is somebody that played in a pro West Coast style offense, and that is absolutely huge because you see all of the real NFL transferable things on his tape. I think this is the biggest area where it made him my number one for me is I wasn't sure about putting him number one because I didn't know or whether or not he was a good enough athlete to suggest he could be my number one guy, but he is actually very slick and very underrated at eluding pressure. He is very underrated in this regard. His feet impressed me. His ability to avoid rushers impressed me. His ability to extend plays and actually make throws on the move with vision impressed me. So after I saw that, I was like, you know what? I'm not really like all that concerned about his athleticism. Like I thought I would be based on all the rumors and things that people were saying because they kind of describe him as a lackluster athlete in ways that I don't think exist when you watch his tape. So he's definitely the safest quarterback. He's definitely the most ready, but that doesn't also not make him the best. That's something I want people to understand. He's good in the pocket. He's twitchy when he has to make a move. What else we got? He can scramble. He definitely can scramble. He kind of reminds me of like a faster Matt Ryan, the way that he runs. He's got deceptive speed, definitely. And not a lot of wow factor on his tape. The wow factor is just watching him process and go through and make the right plays. He plays with passion. He seems to be a good leader. He won quite a bit of games and elevated a lot of the talent on his team. He's played a ton of football. I like him. I like Kenny Pickett. Do I love him? Like, would I absolutely be all over him to be my franchise quarterback? No, probably not. But I do like him as the best quarterback in this class. And I do think he is the best, most ready NFL guy in this class that should go the highest in this class, probably. Holden says he does bail from clean pockets. He does do that, which I do think is one of his flaws. I think I put that on my thing. He does do that sometimes. Not all the time, but he does tend to do that. But the surprising thing about him was his ability to actually be able to extend those plays often. But a lot of the other guys do that as well. So it's not really like he actually makes more within the pocket and an ability to kind of move like in the pocket throws than the other guys do. So again, I am just assessing him versus his competition in this draft class. And to me, he's the best. I don't think this is a great class of quarterbacks, but I do see Kenny Pickett as the top guy and the guy that will make the most difference day one in the NFL for sure. Again, guys, I was pretty close between Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett. And I would say that 3 quarterbacks in this class have a claim to be a first-round pick. The others, I would say no, probably more like third-rounders to me. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Lenny wants to try to get all over me for me not reading his super chat, even though I've been doing my video here live. Lenny with $2 says, Lenny Pickett. Lenny Pickett. Yes, sir. Lenny Pickett. Holden says he is the only QB I'd take above 15, but not very high. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? If you're a quarterback needy team, I get it. I definitely think he's a first round pick and a top half pick. He'll be picked by one of the quarterback needy teams. And this is something that I gotta say, like, you're not gonna get a Hall of Fame talent in every draft class, right? So don't always try to swing for the fences just to try to swing for the fences. Like, evaluate what you see, and there's not going to be a Mahomes in every draft. There's not going to be an Aaron Rodgers in every draft. There's not going to be a Tom Brady in every draft. Sometimes a draft is only going to have a Kirk Cousins. Sometimes a draft, you'd be lucky to have a Matt Ryan, right? You'd be lucky to have like a Phillip Rivers. Like, that's great. Not every draft has a Ben, an Eli, and a Rivers. Not every draft has 3 Hall of Famers, right? Not every draft has 3 Pro Bowlers. Some drafts just have a Derek Carr and maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, and that's kind of the way I see this draft. I feel like Corral has some upside to be potentially good. Like, I could see him being a top 10 quarterback one day, but I could also see him not. I could see Pickett being a very solid starter for a lot of years. I could see him being the 12th best quarterback for 6 years straight. And to me, that's pretty good. I could see Willis being good. I could also see him not being good. So it's like kind of what you assess, right? And that's just the way I see it. It's not a great draft class, and we should reassess our thoughts on, like, basically, we're not gonna have a superstar every class. That's what I'm trying to say. So don't discount the talent that you do have at the top, and that's what I think we have in somebody like Kenny Pickett. Lenny says Saints are really going to reach and trade up for Matt Corral. I think that would be a good pick. If they pick him at like 16 or whatever they're going to do, or even, I think they could probably get him there, but if they trade up to like 12 or whatever and pick him, I'd be fine with that. I do think there's going to be 3 quarterbacks in the first round. I'd be a little surprised if there was less than 3 and if there was more than 3. I would be very surprised if there were more than 3. But, yeah. Nicholas, what's your list? And if you guys have any questions about any of these guys, don't forget to leave a comment right now. The time is now to ask. I just finished my list. So if you want to ask me any questions about any of these 5 quarterbacks, let me know. But to reiterate my list, just so I don't screw up, Desmond Ridder, number 5. Sam Howell, number 4. Malik Willis, number 3. Matt Corral, number 2. And Kenny Pickett is my number 1. Like I said, my top 2 are pretty close. Number 3 was my number 3 for sure. Number 4 was my number 4 for sure. And number 5 was my number 5 for sure. That's kind of the way I saw it on my list. And I see 3 first rounders. I would take Sam Howell at the end of the 2nd or the 3rd round. I would take Ridder in the 3rd round for sure. That's kind of the way I see it. All right. So, that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. If you did, don't forget to give me a Gronk spike. We will see you for the rest of the content this offseason. Very much looking forward to covering the rest of the draft class. Those are your quarterbacks. Let me know in the comments what you think. It's Mitch. Appreciate all you guys tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace!